Hi, this is Michelle from Our World of Wonders, and Charlotte's not here with me today, but we're going to go over our photographs of the White Lake Pioneer Cemetery uh, from the video we just released. This is the sign. This is one of the most unusual cemeteries that we've ever seen, where it was completely overgrown. This is the little driveway with the sign. There's a family that's been trying to clean it up and make it less abandoned. Okay, this is another angle of the little laneway that we pulled in, and you can see right from the road to the tip of this little edge of the hill where the trees are, completely overgrown, and the stones are all intermingled in between. Very dangerous to walk through, but it was very, very interesting. There you can see the woodpile behind the tombstone. That's one of the first pictures that I took. There are two of these giant mounds of debris, and it's still so dangerous to walk through. There's a really interesting little stone that I saw. Some were quite large and some were like minuscule. This one, kind of sad, but a very beautiful little tiny stone. Uh, the next photograph is Charlotte. You can see from where she's standing that some are quite small and some are huge. It's just very interesting, and trees and twigs everywhere. So as you're trying to take pictures, you're trying also not to stumble over things. And it's also on a hill. This is sort of moving from where we went in by the sign up the hill, and we're going to go over and beyond the other side shortly. The next photo, you can see there's been a fair bit of damage that the family that's restoring is trying to raise funds for to help fix up. But just so many interesting things to look at. We could have spent 3 or 4 more hours there, but we didn't, obviously. Here's another example of a nice little stone. You can tell how old it is. The next couple of stones through here, you can see all amongst the trees. Now, at this sort of apex where the top of the hill is, there's a little mysterious wall. We have no idea whether there was a building here at one time. You can only see this little corner. It's very possible that there were buildings here, that perhaps it was an unusable part of farmland, and that's why they decided to make the cemetery here. There could have been a little building of some sort. We don't really know. Just an interesting place, and you can tell how old the stone is. It just is very crumbly. Okay, the next series of photographs are just simply us walking around the cemetery and taking some photographs. A lot of information on the stones are hard to read. There's some very old stones. There's some newer ones. I think the 1940s is probably the last time this particular cemetery was used. In a couple of the pictures, you can see the minuscule stones I was talking about. They're almost more like a marker stone as opposed to a tombstone, just little bumps that might only be 1.5 inches, 2 inches out of the ground. Some of them are maybe 4 or 5 inches. You really, really have to watch where you're walking if you ever decide to go onto Highway 62 and find this little cemetery. Because it's not just twigs and logs and things that are very dangerous. The stones themselves, you don't want to disrespect these people by, knocking over their stones. I mean, they've already had a tough enough time not being looked after for, 60 years or more. So these are just a few shots that give you an idea of what it was like. And here's some more examples. In front of the large pink stone, you can see the small, tiny little stones in the foreground. You can see a few down the hill, down in the back where the black is, the black stone. All along the back, you can see the little railings. It's very interesting, and we just kept taking more and more pictures of these little stones that we were seeing all around. I don't need to describe too much about them. I mean, they're really, really interesting. And you just have to be incredibly careful. Uh, I'm not sure if I can see. Well, you can see for yourself what's going on. And the next little photograph after this group of photographs is a stone like I've never seen before, which we found incredibly interesting. And here's the photographs of this wonderful little heart stone that has obviously been restored and rehung, which we've never seen stones like this before. One of the things I would like to mention in the pictures just beforehand, the stones that were sort of dark under the tree, I had taken several photographs in that direction, and they turned out totally black, even though the flash and everything went off. And we did have a lot of electric issues with the batteries and the camera and the phone. And it was very odd that some of the pictures we took turned out beautifully, like the two stones here, you know, same settings, same lighting, and for some reason some of the pictures turned out totally black, as if we weren't supposed to be taking the pictures. Another interesting thing that I would have liked to have done was taken some temperature readings in this area, but we didn't have all of the temperature anomalies happen until we were at the other side of the hill. We were very excited and we were pressed for time, and I know that at some point Charlotte and I will be going back because there's so many things that we didn't really get a chance to study. And the next group of pictures that are coming up are interesting to me. This is the stone by the tree. This happened near the end of our video when Charlotte and I had bent down and buried the crystals, and I turned my head, and between the stone and the tree, in my line of view, there was this bright flash. So I've took several photographs, 4 to be exact, to try and see if there was anything like a piece of glass or a tin can or something that could reflect such a bright light into my face. And really, it shows absolutely nothing, which is kind of the same thing that happened with our dowsing. I mean, it basically, there was no negative energy that needed to be dealt with or anything like that. We definitely had anomalies happen. We had the camera, Charlotte's camera, lose half its power, and then suddenly, like 3 minutes later, it was fully charged. Her cell phone lost half its power. We took photographs that the flash was on, should have taken a perfectly fine photograph, and they turned out black, and yet the picture right after it, same situation, turned out fine. So we definitely had a lot of things happen. Photographically, really no evidence, which is surprising. It's the first time we didn't have something unusual turn up. Usually in most of our photographs we get at least one interesting photograph. So really the only interesting photographs are the fact that it was abandoned, that it was completely grown over. We didn't see it when it was at its worst because there's 2 giant piles that were actually made from these families trying to get it back into respectful order. But nothing really showed up that was a shock or a surprise. We may have to go over these photographs again, and possibly there is something that we've missed. I don't have very many photographs that Charlotte took because they're exactly the same as mine, but we did take 2 photographs of ourselves, which I think turned out quite nicely. And this is a picture of me, Michelle, after a really interesting day. And these 2 little stones were down near the front by the car, and I thought, hey, I think I'd like to get my picture taken here. It was just such an interesting experience, and both Charlotte and I know that we're going to be coming back to this place at some point when we actually have a plan on what we would like to test and experiment in different areas we can go to. And I took a picture of Charlotte, and they both turned out really well. You never know, they might show up in one of our intros at some point in the future. We went from here to Bancroft on a wonderful little rock adventure, which we will put a slideshow up of. It's not a huge adventure, but for us it was very, very exciting. Um, I'm thinking that, like, even like Charlotte's pendulum at this particular area is maybe about 15 feet away from where those stones were on the outside of the cemetery. Because we thought, okay, if we're having a problem dowsing inside the cemetery, maybe if she's outside of the cemetery, there'll be different answers. And of course, her pendulum completely fell apart, and that was the end of that. She has a new pendulum, which I'm sure you'll be introduced to in our next uh, new series. Right now we have about 3 or 4 shows to put up that we have done in Coburg. I found some really interesting evidence, and Charlotte also, that we're hoping you're really going to like. Sorry that we're a little slow getting it out, but this winter has sort of been busier than we expected, and the ice storm, of course, has made it impossible for us to do any new episodes right now. So look forward to seeing some of the Coburg photographs that we took back in, I don't know if it was October, November. No, yeah, October, I guess. We'll be seeing you soon. So this is Michelle saying goodbye, and have a wonderful day. And Charlotte will be talking to you soon too, and we can't wait for our next adventure.